Hey guys, it's Hazel here, and yes, I know it sounds like I'm talking into a dollar store microphone, but truthfully, this microphone was $30 on Amazon, and I figured I'd take it, okay? Please bear with me while I try and get better equipment and technology. Like, please. I'm trying, okay? I just wanted to share some fun work stories and, just have some fun. So, I've been working for it feels like, my whole life? And I figured I'd share some ridiculous stories. And to clarify, I work in a restaurant. That's all you need to know. Let's start with an angry, or in this case, stupid. Yeah, well, you stupid customer. Now, the part of town I work in is actually pretty not good. We'll just say there's a lot of bad people and bad events that happen. But surprisingly, I don't actually get that many bad customers. But either way, when I get them pretty bad. Like, I get them. You get me? So I use get like for... No, anyway, this happened last year, okay? Around December, and I was working takeout at the front of the house, and an older lady came in. Not like, like too old, like more like in her late 50s or early 60s. Like long gray hair, glasses, wrinkles on her face. That's just a physical description, so you can make your own assumptions based on that. And it was like, I don't know, it was probably like 9 o'clock. It was late at night. I was ready to go. It was an hour left in the shift, and the dining room was completely empty because it was a Tuesday. Yeah, no one ever comes in at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday. And there were only 2 takeout orders left, meaning I could go home as soon as they showed up to pick it up. And of course, since it was empty, they decided to get the cleaners in early, so, it could be done with earlier. And they were doing the carpets on the other side of the restaurant. It was still, visible to the takeout counter, but, they would be on my left, the far left. And, they were there for about 20 minutes, and then the lady came in. She walked up to the register and, paid and asked if she could stand outside as she waited, because she was complaining about the smell. They were using, really strong sanitizers, and, of course, being the nice person that I totally am, I smiled. This was before masks, so she could actually see me smile, and I told her that her order was ready, so she could just take it and walk away, because she already paid. I don't remember, exactly what she got, but I believe she just got, a single pizza, a regular-sized pizza. It was, 6 cuts, so it was, a small box. It's not like she needed to take 2 trips. So I just grabbed the pizza off the heat lamps that are, right behind me, and I gave it to her. But, of course, can't be that simple, can it? It's 2019 at this point, so obviously it couldn't be that simple. And she looked at me with this dazed look in his eyes. She had this look like I just handed her COVID, okay? And this was back in 2019 and she looked like that. So she simply backed up and she shook her hands in the air. She started whining and whining about the smell and how suffocating it was. And of course, being the amazingly nice person I am, I tried being patient and I told her that her pizza was right there. I had it literally right on the counter. It was nice and hot, fresh out of the oven, and I told her that she should take it before the smell becomes too much for her. That would be logic, right? Let me recite what she said to me. I want a refund. I can't stand this smell. Give me a refund. I don't want the pizza. I just want my money back. Some people are just so stupid. Oh my god. So at that point, I kind of just looked at her and nodded. I was done working. I was working for 6 hours and I didn't want to put up with any of her crap, so I just walked away and got a manager. Now, the manager who was working that night is very nice. We have 4 managers that work all different nights, and this one is extremely understanding and strongly believes in the customer is always right catchphrase. So, when I saw this man getting slightly annoyed at this woman, I knew I wasn't just overreacting, okay? Now, of course, he didn't show his annoyance. That would be against company policy. He simply tried to reason with her, calmly. He told her the same thing I did. And I quote, "Ma'am, your pizza is right there. If you want out of the restaurant, it would be easier to grab it and go now." When she insisted on a refund, she was at, borderline yelling, pretty much. She was, pointing her finger down on the table and, you could... like that. She was, bamming her, she was slamming that finger against the table. And the manager looked like he wanted to die. So he just gave in and gave her the refund. So I don't blame him. just wanted he just wanted that headache gone. I mean, I really don't blame him. When she got the money, she just stormed out of the restaurant. Like, honestly, she looked like she was so proud of herself, like she was the coolest person ever. And surprisingly, immediately after she left, my manager just facepalmed. Like, he had the most dead look in his eyes. He was so tired. He worked such a long day, and he just looked at me and told me that I could have the pizza if I wanted it. And I just kind of nodded because I was way too bewildered to answer. And, you know, that's how my night went. That's only one story out of the 3 I'm going to tell you. Sounds fun, right? Right? Alright, let's move on to a weirder story. Well, I guess weird isn't the right word. More like just an annoying customer. But yeah, this happened on a Wednesday night, and I had one last order left. And I'm just now realizing that almost all of the weirdest and rudest customers come in at like 9 o'clock. Why is that? You know what? Anyway, I had one order, and at that point, I just wanted to go home. It was exactly 9 o'clock, meaning that I'd worked for 5 hours. Now, this is after quarantine, so I had a mask on, and, you know, it wasn't exactly pleasant to be wearing a mask in the heat because, well, it was in June. This was recent. It wasn't like there was a heat wave. It was just, you know, there's no real, like, the air conditioning is not the greatest right in the front. It's more, like, focused in the dining room, so it's just not fun. Running back and forth between the register and kitchen to grab takeout is just, ugh. But anyway, so this, again older, but not as old, woman comes in. Now, before I tell you this, let me give you a restaurant worker's 2 pet peeves, at least for me. Number 1, when you are as sweet and nice as you can be and the customer still gets angry at you for something that isn't even your fault. Now, number 2, when you won't shut up. Sorry, I don't mean to be blunt, but when it's late at night or in the middle of a rush, we don't want to hear your whole life story, okay? We don't mind 5-minute conversations, but we have a job to do as well, so please, please, please be mindful of that. It's good to be friendly with the staff. That's what they're there for. They're there to be friendly and have conversations and have fun, but just don't take up too much of their time. If they're anything like me, I get shaky and nervous when I'm not checking on food or other customers every 5 to 10 minutes. So anyway, on with the story. This chick comes in, and you can tell she's a little older, probably in her mid-50s, and she was my last takeout of the night, so I was stoked. She came in right at 9. Since this was after COVID, we closed an hour earlier, and whenever I have one order left, they never come in until at least 9:15. I always end up leaving by like 9:30, 9:35, which is so annoying. So I was so happy. You see, my brother was waiting for me to drive me home since I hate driving, okay? So when I saw her coming in, I quickly texted him. Like, she was still at the door. Like, there's 2 doors, so I still had a minute. And I quickly texted him, telling him that my last order came in, so I would be out in a minute. Did I come out in a minute? No. No, I did not. She came in and said hi and introduced herself, so she quickly paid, and I gave her what she ordered, which was a Sicilian. I remember it to this day. So it's like a smaller pizza. It's 8 cuts. It's in a small box. So like again. You don't have to take 2 trips. It's not heavy, you know? I had my lanyard on at this point. Like, that's how you know I was ready. Like, I was ready to clock out when she looks up at me. And I'm about to tell her to have a good night when she starts talking about the COVID situation. My smile, which was, you know, hidden behind my mask, it faltered. Of course, I thought this was just small talk. So I obviously replied with enthusiasm. I was nice enough. But then I realized that was only the start. She proceeded to tell me her entire life story. I'm not kidding. She told me about where she comes from, how many states she traveled to, and her favorite sites in those states, her profession, a nurse, how she was involved in not 1, not 2, but 3 car accidents, and about how she's worried about driving home at night. She came in at 9 o'clock even. She didn't stop talking until 9:36. She didn't shut up for 36 minutes. At that point, my phone, which was on vibrate, was buzzing in my back pocket like crazy. My brother was wondering why I didn't come out yet, and for good reason. Now there's a clock on the register, so by the time it hit 9:15, I stopped replying to her and just kind of stared. If you're wondering why I didn't ask her to leave, it's because, well, she was nice. I mean, she was, very sweet. She was a sweet old lady, but, she just didn't stop talking. I didn't want to be rude. Clearly she hasn't gotten a lot of attention in the past few days, weeks, months, whatever. She just clearly needs someone to tell all about her life because she didn't get the attention somewhere else. But, when she finally left, I almost cried. I had to stay in that place for an extra half hour because someone could not shut up. I instantly got my manager to cost out my tips and practically ran out of the restaurant. I was so upset. I almost fell asleep talking to her. All I wanted to do was collapse in bed after a decent day of work. Oh, don't worry. We will end this whole video, on a positive note with a nice, wholesome story. This is a progressive story, like it's still going on now. I used to work night shifts on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And except for Friday, I worked alone for most of the week, right? Now, I got moved to day shifts now, but I used to work nights all the time for probably like a good 6 months. Yeah, but every Wednesday and Friday, these two guys would come to dine in. And the first time I ever met them, they joked around with me, saying stuff such as, "I probably know the menu better than you." And for context, I asked them if they wanted a menu. I mean, like, you get accustomed to, like, customers who just kind of have this look in their eye when they don't want one. And they had that look, but ever since then, we kind of got to know each other. And I even waited on them a couple times. And keep in mind, I'm not actually a waitress. I never had interest in that. That's way too much anxiety for me. I just stick with my hostess and cashier job. I highly doubt I'll ever change. And I never even need to ask them what they want. I just know they want 2 Cokes, soup, and a pizza. Pretty easy, right? And whenever they were done with their food, they would bring their check up to the cashier, and anyone who dines in pays at the front, which is my job, so saw them all the time. And every time I would ask them how their food was, and every time they would say in sync, without fail, "Horrible, I guess we're just going to have to come back and try again." And they do. Every Wednesday and Friday they come in, even during the pandemic. And I just find stories like these so fun to tell since they remind me of how fun my job can be, like, honestly. Even though I don't really work nights anymore, I still make an effort to see them since they're just really cool people. And if you can joke around with the staff and give them a fun, positive vibe, they will remember you. I don't mean to get into another story, but there's this guy that used to get takeout and we would talk about the different gyms around the area and oh my gosh, his energy. He was so pumped and he only talked for like 2 minutes. He's the best of both worlds. He's nice and he lets me do my job. I miss him so much. But now that I don't work nights, I doubt I'll see him anytime soon. After all these stories, I figured I should just give everyone a helpful tip if you want to make a restaurant worker's life easier. Speak loud and clearly. A lot of people walk in to place orders, and when they mumble, it makes my life so much harder. If I mess up an order because I couldn't properly hear you after saying, "I'm sorry, what was that?" 4 times, then at that point, it's not my fault. Just point to the item on the menu if you really can't speak up a little. The more excited you are, the more I'll appreciate you. I mean, it's not the same for every worker, but I love someone with good energy, or at the very least, talks clearly and doesn't talk a lot. Anyway, those are a few fun work stories I had. I hope you enjoyed them because trust me, I have a lot more. I get crazy ones about once a week. Something just happened to me on Wednesday and I'll talk about that in my next fun work stories. I hope to turn this into a fun little series that everyone can enjoy. I mean, why not? I can just speak from the top of my head and, just really tell a fun story. The next one that I'm going to tell involves a very interesting male. I think I said enough. So anyway, thank you for watching and bearing with my dollar store microphone. And if you watched this far, you're amazing and I love you. Thank you so much and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!